back to what I was saying about these pieces were cutoffs for the corners for this big, huge thing he wanted to turn around. And I said, I'm not going to turn all that, take the time to turn all that wood off. So I just cut it off with a saw and then ran them on the joiner to get them flat and glued them together to make these nice blanks. And I'm, thought, well, what am I going to do with them? And I said, well, those nice candlesticks would be real nice to make those out of. So I made quite a few of them. Haven't sold a damn one yet. So I don't know if I'm asking too much for them or if just people don't want them anymore. But we'll see. Eventually they'll sell, I think. So what I'm going to do is run you through the steps on how I do this. Obviously it is drilled out for the candle. And what I do is I recess the bottom to chuck it up, which makes it pretty easy to turn. So what I've done is I've marked my centers. So I'm going to put this between centers first. And square up the ends and get a tenon on it where I can grip it. And once I get it on the chuck and grabbed, then I can drill the bottom recess, turn it around and chuck it up that way. And go ahead and turn the thing. So let's switch cameras here. So that's the overhead. And what I'm using is my 4-prong drive center that fits in the chuck. What I did when I made the other ones is I actually used a larger chuck and just threw the square end in between the chuck jaws. So that's another way to get it started. Check your clearance, lock her down. And I do most of the work on these with a spindle roughing gouge. This would be a good project for a skew. I'm not real good with a skew, so I don't use it a whole lot. That's probably why I'm not real good with it, because I don't use it enough. So, we crank this thing up and make a round. We'll get a 10 on that, square it up so we can chuck it. Okay, I'll go down to the other end and prepare that to drill the bottom so that we can chuck it up with it standing into it. And you can finish the bottom that way, and that way the bottom's finished as you continue on. Now I'm running this thing 1200 RPM. So let's switch up here. So we're around there. Square this end. Again, using a parting tool. Slightly dish that. And at this point, if you want, you can just slightly round that corner. So now what I'll do is I'll change out to the drill chuck. And we're going to use a 2 1/8 inch Forstner bit. And obviously slow your RPM down considerably when you're drilling a hole this size. Three 3/16, a little less than a quarter. All you really need to go. Because you're basically going to be between centers almost all the time anyway, except when you're drilling the top hole. So Now, what you want to do, if you're going to finish this bottom off, which I would recommend at this point if you want to finish bottom, another thing you can do is, depending on the size of these things and weight, you could drill another pocket in there and pour some lead in there. But I'll just take a quick little pass. Now, you got to be really careful because you got a lot of leverage sitting out here on this chuck. So you can't go in here and take a heavy cut. So just clean up the bottom a little bit. Get rid of that nipple from the, or that indentation from the Forstner bit. Do whatever sanding, finishing you're going to do. Go ahead and put a line or two in there if you like it. Or place to write your name and the type of wood if you're so inclined. This is just a homemade point tool that I showed you guys several months ago on how to make this whole tool. So I will flip it around and expand our jaws into the mortise. Don't tighten it up all the way yet. Bring the tailstock up and get it up into that center. Yeah, don't tighten it at all. Let it fall out. And throw your chuck key on the floor and lose it in the shaving pile. There we go. Good thing we have another chuck key. Tighten that up. Now, obviously, with something being laminated like this, you might not want to super tighten it, but I don't think you stand a chance of popping those glue joints. And if you were using regular piece of wood with, not laminated up, depending on, give yourself enough meat, with the size of the hole, that you don't take a chance on splitting it, on the end grain, because this is a turned end grain. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a little material off the top here and square it up again all the way down. Go back to the drill chuck. And the hole for the candle, I believe, wants to be 7/8. So it will accommodate I believe the standard candles are 3/4 of an inch in diameter approximately. So unless you want to use an insert, and then you just have to size the hole according to the size of the insert. Some of the companies sell those brass. I don't know if they're solid brass or if they're just black brass plated steel inserts. So since I do not have in my possession that I can find a 7/8 Forstner bit, I'm just going to use a paddle bit. And again, we're going to drop that speed. Down about 300. And approach this thing kind of slow, because these bits like to wiggle. As you can see. Try something here. Oh, you want that hole about 3/4 of an inch deep is probably fine. I think that's about where we're at now. Close enough. Not critical. Go back to your live center. And of course, the one way or the Powermatic or the Peachtree copies will fit inside that hole, and you know, you can put your centerpiece in there. So now we're locked up good and tight between centers. So go ahead and remove some material here. So first thing I'm going to do is make the whole thing pretty much round. I'll come back down here to the bottom, which should have been finished, but it kind of, when I let it fall out of the chuck, it kind of got dinged up. So I'm going to clean this up. Okay. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to figure out our dimensions. Now you can do, you can do a shape like that. You can move this down. You can make them equal with the top being slightly smaller. It's all a matter of whatever you want to do. There's no set rules on this thing. I would suggest going online and looking up Rudy Solnick's work, and you'll see, what he does or what he did, and give you some ideas of what, proportions to do. So basically what you want is something that's flowing and pleasing to the eye. There's no rules. There's no set dimensions on anything like this. So whatever you like. Switch to a spindle gouge. Change this a little bit, round this up. Something a little different. This is actually too big in diameter. Switch to the smaller spindle roughing gouge. Get a little closer there with the tool wrench. Now, another tool that works real well on this is those old Craftsman tools that we've talked about so many times. Continental style gouge. This is just ground at a 45. That's pretty much it. This isn't the greatest shape I've ever done, but you get the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. So now just slow it down, and you can do all your sanding and finishing, which I'm not going to do, obviously. I'll just go sand, sand, sand. And I will throw a little finish on it just for the hell of it, even though it's not finished. That way you can see the color come up. So that's the general idea. Like I said, this particular shape isn't super nice. Could probably use a little work. But you know, it's kind of cool with the laminated piece of wood. I don't know if you can see that. You know, where the different blocks of wood are glued together, you can see the points. So, you know, you can use regular just a hunk of log, obviously. I thought this was a good project for those cutoffs that I had. And hopefully somebody else will think they're good too and buy them to put on their table. So it's basically it. for this
Nice job. Thank you, Ralph.
demonstration. Just something to do. Experiment with the shapes. And I'll post a couple of links so you can get some better ideas of the shapes. And the originals are quite a collector's item.
I would think that on this type of thing, this type of project, that the old adage shiny stuff sells, that you would do better with a nice gloss finish that's buffed out. At least at our shows, I think that might work better.
Shiny stuff?
Shiny stuff.
Yeah, what they say, SSS. Shiny stuff sells. Yeah, I mean, you could put, you could use a poly on these. You could use lacquer. You could get them really, really shiny if you wanted.
And if you use something like a deft that you could buff afterwards, it would really bring out all the grain. It would be beautiful.
Yeah. Obviously, you're going to need. I mean, this was just a quick.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if you're depending on how much time you want to spend on these, and what kind of money you want to try and charge for them, obviously, the more time you put in them, the more money you should charge for them. But there's also a limit as to what people will pay. So. It gets to the point where you've got hours and hours and hours in a project, and nobody's going to pay for that time. So, those are the kind of pieces you put on the shelf and keep for yourself, unless or price them how you want to price them high, and hopefully the right person will come on and say, "Oh, I love that," and buy it at the right price. So you never know. And like with anything, price-wise, if you're into it, sometimes you can play, let's make a deal. If you price it extra high, then there's a little room to come down if you're so inclined, if you think people will go for it. So I try not to do that too often. But yeah, that one obviously is just oil. The ones that I have, a lot of them I have are just oil finish, but they're a lot better finished than this. They're nicer looking. This one here has a wipe-on satin poly, which I don't think you can really see. That I hit with like 4/0 steel wool. And it could probably use a couple more coats. So just an experiment with the poly, which I'm not a big fan of it, but some people make it work really well for themselves. So,
Ralph, I've not used the wipe-on poly. Can you buff that?
Sure, you can buff anything.
No, some of the like the Minwax Polycrete, you can't buff.
Oh, the polyacrylic?
Yeah, polyacrylics. Because they tend to melt.
Well, yeah, you can't get aggressive with it.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't try and put compound on it. I might have just put a little wax on it and buff it lightly. But plus it also depends, I think, on the cure time. If it says 24 hours cure, you let it sit for a week, you might be able to do more with it. But yeah, some finishes, lacquer, you can melt that if you get too aggressive with the buffing. So, actually, depending on the wood, you can put put it on the buffing system and with no finish, and make that stuff shine like a diamond. Mr. Piper, you want to finish that?
Nope, Gary's not here. That's his saying.
Oh, okay.